I want to dive right in and get started because I have so many questions about this as a parent, staring at summer, knowing that there are hot, long days ahead, and there's only so many tricks I feel like I have up my sleeve. So we're going to talk about just from, an expert standpoint of what really should we consider with screen time, also how important is downtime and outdoor activity, all of that. So our expert today is Dr. Nicole Torres. Welcome. We're so glad you're
Hi,
here.
I am
She
so
is
happy to be here.
she is no stranger to the parental guidance stage. She has been here before, and we're thrilled to have her back. She is the assistant professor of clinical pediatrics, the Division of General Pediatrics, and she received her undergrad degree from UM, and she also earned her MD from the University of Illinois, the College of Medicine there, and then completed a residency and chief residency at Holtz Children's Hospital, Jackson Memorial. So she is board certified in general pediatrics. She practices at UHealth Pediatrics in Kendall, where she cares for children of all ages from infancy all the way to young adulthood. So she's got lots of expertise on today's topic. And in addition to clinical care, she is actively involved in the education of students at the Miller School of Medicine, and she serves on editorial boards for the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Board of Pediatrics. So you're going to go straight from your time educating us today to educating the future doctors of America there
Yeah.
at So
And
we're gonna dive in and we're gonna
yeah,
see some of these questions so we can get as many in front of you. And
I
just
am
to our
excited for it.
audience, if you have a question for our expert at any time, drop that in the Q&A feature. That will help us kind of keep those questions to the side. But if you have a specific question, put it in the Q&A box and I'll do my best to get it in front of Dr. Torres. But we are going to get started and we are so excited to have you. So let's talk about easy outdoor activities to keep kids engaged. So just start simple because I think sometimes we get overwhelmed and we're like,
Yeah,
what in the world am I going to do all summer? We don't have to
yeah,
think about that. Let's just think about right now, at noon on a Thursday. I'm home with
right.
the kids. What are simple outdoor activities that we can do with maybe different ages too? Because we have
Yeah,
families of different.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough one. So I will preface it that my kids will be done soon, and I am just like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with my children now? They are a little bit older, 13 and 15, and that is a really tough age. I mean, it's all a tough age, I think,
Yeah,
to keep everyone busy, and to limit the screen time. And I was thinking about this. I thought to myself, I was home in the summer. I usually hung out with my grandmother. My parents worked, and I know that family parents work. Sometimes they work from home. Sometimes they work outside of the house. Maybe there might be a summer camp, maybe there won't be, or certainly not all summer. And I was just like, okay, what was it like growing up in the 80s?
that's right.
and
Take us back. It was
um
good.
and so yeah, exactly. So the first thing is just, this is not something that kids or parents are used to. We are all often pretty distracted, parents and kids included, and so this is going to be a big departure. And we know that kids need to have some activity, and with the strain of parenthood and parents who work at home and have to get work done, it's difficult. And I acknowledge it, because this is a struggle every summer. So honestly, the first thing is keep it simple. It does not have to be anything. Um, it does not have to be anything complicated. And for the summertime in Miami, it is hot at noon. So suggestions would be to try to do something early if you can, and try to do something later in the afternoon if you can, and try to keep kind of quiet downtime in the middle of the day, because that's probably going to be the least taxing of it. But obviously timing depends on your guys' schedule and how it works. But I
That's right.
mean, even things that are simple and scalable, things that you can do right outside your backyard or in a close neighborhood park, and things like, I was like old school sprinklers,
Love it.
water play, right?
Just add water. This is my
Just,
motto. When things get a little hairy, I'm
yeah,
like, well, how
yeah.
can we add water? What can we do?
Yeah, bubbles, water, sprinklers, I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
And there are things that you can do in a park or a walk that I think can really engage children, which is important because they're going to be like, we're just going to walk and it's so
That's right.
hot and my legs
Let's
are
talk about how we
heavy.
can make a walk more than just a walk. Because I will
Yeah,
say, 1 hour ago, my kids were begging to go on a walk, and we went 100 yards, and they're like,
yeah,
"I'm tired." Da, da, da,"
yeah, yeah,
So we
exactly.
gotta keep the walk
Yeah,
engaging.
so couple of ideas. So first thing is think sensory, right? So be like, we're gonna go on a walk, and then let's pay attention to the things that you see. Let's pay attention to the things that you're hearing. let's pay
Yep.
attention to the things that you can feel or that you can smell. And so working through those senses can help. And you can be like, okay, well, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and see something new, try and be quiet and hear something new, and just have them describe. This is a great activity for the younger kids as they're increasing their vocabulary. For the older kids, you may want to, especially those kiddos who enjoy being outside. And
Hmm.
I will tell you that I do enjoy being outside. So
Yeah.
um, and so this, I think, maybe might come naturally for some folks and not so much others. But you can do kind of like nature detective kind of things. So it's really easy to find, the pictures of backyard, I bet even, like a Amazon or a whatever, but like pictures of backyard birds,
Yep.
and go out looking for them.
Yep.
Anything like that. And the other thing too, for like the littler kids, it could be, color hunts. So if you're learning your colors, let's look for things that are red. Let's look for things that are green. Let's look for things that are blue and all that stuff. And then there's so much out there, not just in nature, but just out in the neighborhood. You could do many variations of either nature detective color hunts, scavenger hunts, bug spotting games. I mean, like there's all sorts of different things. It sparks curiosity. It helps build observational skills, which I think are important. So aside from taking them away from the screen, we're actually building skills that are going to be beneficial.
That's right. That's right. I think that for me is the reminder and the motivator that I'm not just trying to like anti-screen, 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 but like instead of what am I putting off? Like what am I putting on that's like good and helpful for my kids? Like,
Exactly.
okay, they're going to work together instead of just sitting next to each other, which there's a time and place for that.
Yeah.
But they're going to engage or like we're going to like you said all those things to be developing. So what about maybe what are some common games that we're not thinking about that actually are very good for their development or that are
Yeah.
building development skills?
Absolutely. So obviously park play is great and they can run around and they climb and they slide and all those things, but things that can boost coordination and gross motor skills, hopscotch. It's so old school, but it's
Yes,
super
yes, I love
easy. Or
it.
any, hopscotch variation. Tag, I mean, we're really taking it old school, but
I
like builds
love it.
cardiovascular fitness and they're running around, and just reflexes, hand-eye coordination, like all that good stuff. I think the big thing about also playing games like that is that allows for the development of the appreciation for social rules and taking
Yeah,
turns. I think this is
that's
really
good.
important too.
Yeah.
So, and quite frankly, like even moving an inside game outside is a great way to just kind of, step out of where you guys usually are. But any outdoor games like that, I think would be really, really helpful. Yeah, we talked about park play, but you can do an obstacle course.
Oh yeah.
So, you can be like, okay, let's see you run to the stump, climb on the, I don't know, bench
Yep. Yep.
safely,
Crab
carefully,
walk backwards,
crab
something,
walk back.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, listen, I have been using ChatGPT for all sorts
Oh
of
yeah.
things. So you can easily fun games that we can play in the park with my kids.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yep.
Like it's so easy now.
Sometimes it's the thinking that's the hardest part.
Yeah, it is. It
But
is. So
I
if
will
you
say
can,
Miami Mom Collective can help you with that too, because we have a
I
great
figured you guys might.
resource,
Yeah.
all the top parks in Miami, indoor
Yeah.
play places. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
help you with that too. I love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Well, let's talk about, I love that, getting kids outside. How much outdoor play is ideal? Because it is so
Right.
hot in the summers and sometimes there's rain,
Yep.
but like, I don't know,
Sure.
if we're trying to go for a goal. Like, what's a good
Exactly.
outdoor play goal?
So, right. So the American Academy of Pediatrics actually recommends around an hour every day of
Yeah.
physical activity. And it doesn't have to be outdoors.
Yeah.
Certainly an indoor park play. I mean, you can have dance parties for 10 to 15 minutes. Indoor, outdoor. I mean, if we can get 30 minutes outdoors, I think that's great. Obviously
Yeah.
when it's safe and all of that stuff, making sure kids are hydrated. We're using our sunblock and sun protection through clothing and things
Oh,
like that,
yes. Important.
since it is super hot. But ideally an hour, and as much of that you can get outside is great.
That's great.
Yep.
I'll say I've heard it's on social media, this kind of like a movement, but it's called 1,000 hours outside.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's like, yeah, you can get a printable where you can kind of track. And so then it makes it fun for the kids. Like, oh, we did our hour today,
Yeah.
and see how long. And they've got all sorts of ideas. But I don't know. I read a shocking statistic that said even 2 generations ago, so like, our generation and maybe our
Hmm.
parents, that kids on average spent 7 hours a day outside, and that studies show now kids spend on average 7 minutes a
That's
day
wild.
outside. I was
Yeah, I
shocked. I
believe
was
it.
shocked.
Yeah.
But yeah, just even that, like an hour feels doable, and I
Yeah,
think that it has a snowball effect too, of the
right.
more you do it, the more, don't you
Yep.
think?
I agree. And I
Um,
think even starting just 10 to 15 minutes, like it does not we don't have to go all in immediately, right?
yeah,
Because you
that's
might
right.
be like, I don't think I can handle an hour
Yeah,
outside
right,
or 30
right.
minutes. So, scaling it to just kind of easing things in,
That's right.
I think is a win. It's 10
Yeah,
minutes that they're not on the screen. It's 10 minutes they're outside. It's 10 minutes that
that's
you're
right.
with your kids, which quite frankly, I mean, I'll
Mhm.
confess to you, I am too heavy-handed with screens myself,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
when we do this, we role model what is good for our children, and it's good
that's
for
right.
us as well.
That's right. It is. It's good accountability because I'll find myself sometimes like, y'all need to get off that TV. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Talk to us about what are some like outdoor alternatives to structured sports for kids who maybe aren't as athletically inclined, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to play
Right.
kickball or I don't know.
Yeah,
Are there other
exactly. Or that's not my thing. And there are
Yeah.
plenty of kiddos who are like that. So, things that you can do outside, you can take in indoor activities outside,
Yeah.
painting, using sidewalk chalk, the that washable paint. So instead of just chalk, we
Oh,
can do
yeah.
something with brushes. Again, that's good for fine motor skills for littles,
Yeah.
or bigger kids may enjoy that more. But other things that I think are great for kids who are not super inclined athletically or just don't like to be as active in that way, but would still have them moving, which is important, is gardening.
Oh, that's
So this is something that you guys can try. We can pick up a couple of hardy herbs if you have a relatively nice spot for. So there are some herbs that grow really, really easily. You can keep them
yep.
in pots. And so that's something that could be sustainable over time. In other words, like we got to water, we're going to go outside, we're going to water, we're going to till the soil.
Right.
Anything that has to do with gardening, even if it's in a couple of pots, I think will be great and of high interest. And it
Right.
also builds this kind of like, okay, I'm in charge of something. And this is,
Yeah.
it could also help too later on if you can pick your tomatoes or pick some basil and incorporate it in a recipe.
Yeah.
So you can even jazz it up that way and be like, well, this is something that we can actually eat and enjoy together.
That's right.
Um,
Right.
the other thing that I think is great for kids is photography, nature photography,
Oh,
just
yeah.
taking pictures. And I know that we're trying to avoid screens,
Right.
so we can do two things that I think will help. You can, if you have an old film camera, which I don't even know if I do.
That's right.
I don't even know where you would develop
I know.
film.
I'm like, then how do I
What
ever
do
get?
you do with it? But
Yeah.
there are a couple of options. So you
Yeah.
can totally do disposable cameras or one-time use cameras. And the truth is I was gonna check this out before. I'm sure there are places where you can either drop them off or mail them, but either way, there's that. And there's also digital cameras that don't have screens. So they're just
Oh,
point
cool.
and
Yeah.
shoot. And so the
Okay.
benefit of that, and they're pretty cheap because these I was looking at, they're like maybe like $100 depending.
Uh-huh.
Maybe some of them are cheaper. The benefit is that it's just the viewfinder and you are not inclined to then start looking at the screen to look through
That's
your
right.
pictures, right?
That's right.
And
That's right.
so you have them take pictures and do all this fun stuff. And then later we can download them,
Right.
take a look at them on the TV or on the computer screen, and you'll have them
All
there.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, all together. And it also, the other important thing about this too is, kind of establishing delayed gratification, which is what
Yes.
happens when, right, all of these dopamine hits that our kids get on the
Yeah.
screen. We're like, we're gonna take some pictures, and then we gotta
We're gonna
wait.
wait. Then we're gonna wait.
Yeah,
Like
so
what?
right, disposable camera is the ultimate weight.
Yeah.
It's definitely idea, but it's fun for them to come and have no idea what's coming. If you
Yeah.
guys remember that, right?
Yeah.
Where you took pictures and
Go, you buy, and you're like,
we don't know what happened there.
yeah. I'm like, well,
Um,
I guess my finger was in front of the lens.
yeah, exactly. So, but it's worth it. It's worth the
Yeah.
fun. And I think the benefit of that in terms of nature photography is and doing it that way, not using your phone, is that delayed gratification. We're gonna wait a little
That's
bit
right.
till we see the result.
That's right.
I think those are like two good ways for the kids who you want to get indoors. They're gonna be moving.
I love
And I
that.
think that's those are great ways to kind of get them moving without it being so athletic
Mhm.
heavy.
I love that. I think that's great. On that note, I just learned a feature. This isn't about a screen, so it kind of feels anti to what we're saying. But when you're out and about, maybe on a nature walk, sometimes we'll
Mhm.
see like, what in the world is that tree or that bush or that
Yeah.
thing? And you can take a picture on your iPhone,
Yep.
and then that little eye with the circle or like a little dot dot circle, and then it will
Yeah.
say, look up plant, bloop, and then I mean, I look it up and
Yeah.
tell them. But then I'll go, oh, poison ivy, don't ever touch that, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's made them more engaged to be like, oh, what's that? What's that?
I
So
agree.
something fun to add to our walks as a family.
Yeah, and kids are
Um,
naturally curious. And so
yeah,
just fostering that, I think, is they'll love it.
I love that. I'm gonna incorporate a disposable camera this summer.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's talk about strategies for making fitness fun and, healthy living fun for the whole family. So what are some good ways to involve the whole family in just being active?
Yeah. The easiest low-hanging fruit is to have a family walk or as much of the family that's available if they're not, tied up with other things. On a certain given day. So, there's Taco Tuesdays. Well, maybe there's a, walk with mom and dad Wednesday or something. I don't know. I'm just
Love
making
it.
things up like, but
Love it.
it doesn't have to be anything major. It can be 10, 15 minutes and we're just going to get out and we're going to walk as a family. And, are you going to get a lot of pushback? Of course you will. And you'll probably get more pushback with the teens,
Yeah.
if anything else. But I think that if it's a habit, it's something that we do, and
Yeah.
you've scaled it small, so it's only a small period of time, and you try to make it interactive, then they're more likely to kind of do it. But just the same way that you may be setting expectations for your family for certain things, it's just maybe one of these things that you're like, this is really important, and
Yeah.
we'll do it.
You're a mom of teens too. Tell me, do you feel like I've kind of thought with older kids, like having a third party, even if it's like the windshield in the car, or taking a walk, like that so many good conversations happen in that time because you're not just
Totally.
staring, looking at each other, let's
Yeah,
talk about this thing,
exactly.
but you kind of feel like you have this third party. I don't have to look at you. We're doing a
Yeah.
thing together. So I imagine that's got to be a good time to have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely time in the car is a great time to establish rules around screen time that if we're in the car together, there's no screens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's just a great time where kids open up and if you're going to be in the car for a while, then it certainly helps
Yeah.
to have that down because this is when they start to just kind of give you tidbits and you don't want to be distracted. Obviously, you're driving, but
Yeah.
it's a good rule to have in place that if it's a long ride, and we need some distraction, to make it for a certain, mileage or period of time, sure. But for short
Yeah.
distances,
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay to not be on our screens.
That's good.
Mhm.
All right. We all feel like we have just limited time right now. Let's talk about ways that family fitness can still be an activity, even with a short amount of time. Like a walk, you can make it short, but even
Yep.
something shorter, like what are some ideas? Like a push up, push up, push off, dad
Yeah,
and son. I don't know.
so yeah, you can do like fitness challenges or step challenges. You can do I don't know, let's see.
I like the step
Use
challenge. I don't
yeah,
think about that. Just
yeah,
not every day.
yeah, just an old-fashioned pedometer, right?
Yep. Yep.
So you can get those, you just tie them on the shoelace. You can see how many, you can chart it, it's kind of like the behavior
Uh-huh.
thing, like who did this, who did what. You can also use that for activities outside of the screen, just like, okay, so like so and so spent 30 minutes doing, some reading, or we did some puzzles, and you can kind of have like a goal, and then maybe
That's good.
with a certain number of minutes in a day or week that add up, then maybe that kiddo it gets to pick what the special meal is on Friday,
Yeah.
like
That's great.
or
I
Saturday
never
or
thought about
whatever
it.
whatever you guys do,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
pick the movie or pick the board game,
Yeah.
whatever.
All right, you're a mom of teens, so talk to us about motivating teens because
Yeah.
I feel like I can't even
Yeah.
go there in my head.
Yeah, that's really difficult. And I think that one of the first things is just allowing them to take the lead and say, listen, this is important. We really need to do this. This is good for you. This is good for me. But I want your input. What do you think would work? What do you think you would be interested in? Let's take a look at what's going on in our city. So city of Miami, Miami-Dade Parks, if you live in West Miami, if you're in Fort Lauderdale, if you're in Palmetto Bay, right? All of
Yeah,
Pinecrest, like all of our incorporated, cities and towns, will have things going on. So a lot of them are free. So like, let's
yeah,
take a look at events calendar.
that's
What
great.
do you think might be fun to do? What would you like? and if you
Right.
and you're still going to get a lot of pushback. And I think being a parent is about being firm. And it's like
Yeah.
the ball is in your court.
Yeah.
We need to do this. Um, but also think about maybe like dance classes, like
Yeah.
anything that might be fun for them. There's lots of dance studios that will do hip hop. You can even do intro classes. You may not even need to commit. Lots of places will have intro classes where you don't have
That's
to
right.
pay, or the fee is very nominal and you can have
Right.
some fun.
That's right. That's great. I love
Yeah.
that thinking outside the box too.
Yeah.
'Cause it's easy to think of what your own interests are. You come and do this with me, but like, okay, what is my
Yeah.
teen interested? How
Yeah.
can we?
Yeah.
That's good. What about, are there any Miami specific places that you recommend for like active family outings?
Sure. So I'm an outdoor girl, so I will tell you that I love Matheson Hammock.
Yes.
For the parents, the families of fourth graders, the Every Kid Outdoors allows a national park pass for free that would get the student and anyone in the family
Awesome.
into a national park. So
That's amazing.
it's a little bit of a trek, but we have
Yeah.
Biscayne National, we have Everglades, we have Big Cypress, all within a couple of hours
It's amazing.
within our what you call it, within our area.
That's right.
So I know it's hot, so we're talking about either early or evening, but they have some great programming, and it can certainly make things a little bit more cost effective, if that's a concern. But Crandon Park is a great place.
Great spot. Great
So
spot.
outdoor stuff. Let's see. I mean, obviously, like your municipal parks, water parks,
That's right. That's a
the
good spot.
Splash Pad at Metro Zoo. I mean, that was a
Yeah.
fan favorite.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Anywhere to get wet.
Anywhere to get wet, yeah,
That is
just add
so true.
water.
That is so true. Just
Yeah.
add water.
Oh, underline. So Brickell. So if you
Oh
guys are kind of
yeah,
like in the
yeah,
Grove and stuff, the
that's right.
underline is probably a great place. It's safe, it's walkable, it's bikeable.
Right.
And there's lots of activity stations going on. So if you're in that direction, or if you've never checked it out and you just kind of want to go that way, that's
Yep,
probably another opportunity too,
that's great.
to kind of be outside.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many options in Miami.
Yeah.
Say that. Definitely. So check out your local website,
Deering
moms.
Estates. Deering Estate will have
That's
fun things to
right.
do. Yeah.
Fairchild, Pinecrest
Fairchild.
Gardens has a great water bit. Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of places. We are very lucky in Miami to have so many, and of course the beach.
Yes.
So anywhere you can get in the water. And also, I would say we have a whole episode about children and water safety. So stepping into summer, go check out the archives. Okay, let's talk about really the most important thing I think in motivating our kids to do this is setting the example first, modeling these healthy fitness habits. So I don't know, encourage us, remind us about that, and then I want to dig a little bit more into like screen time recommendations and things.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does start with us. They are watching us. They are watching us all the time. And I know that it's difficult. I will be the first to tell you that I often live a very distracted life.
Yeah.
And it really does require intentionality and and sometimes you need, I'm blanking on the name of the apps, but there are a couple of them that will basically shut down your phone with the
Yeah,
exception of very important apps that you would need to access, and everything else is out. Like
that's
not
great.
even with a code, you can't even override it because Apple will let you override.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and I'm blanking on the name now, but there's a couple of them which I'm sure you can
Okay.
find that would
Yeah.
really you basically like it doesn't open up for you until a certain period of time. So
Yeah.
you could
Wow, that's
definitely
good.
use that for you if you don't like me
Yep.
have difficulty with it.
That's right.
Um, and honestly, like I removed a bunch of apps, so
Mhm.
my social media, um, I took it off of my phone and I'll access
Yeah.
it on the desktop, which is but
Which is
it's helped.
harder. So
It's harder. It's
it
just
helps you.
helped. It
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's good. That's good. I think that if we want to see that discipline in our children, it definitely starts with us. And
Yeah.
it's
And
so
it's
hard.
difficult. It's so hard.
So hard. We have to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about, because it would be unrealistic to say our kids are never going to see a screen. It's
Yeah.
just unrealistic. So what are current screen time recommendations for kids? And does it
Yeah.
vary age to age? Talk.
Yeah, it does. So AAP recommends no screen time whatsoever for children less than 2, which I know that there are plenty of kiddos who have had screen time.
Yeah.
And I would say if we're gonna do some screen time, let it be FaceTime calls with family.
Yeah.
Although as I had heard earlier, a little episode of Bluey, you know,
Oh.
to kind of take the edge off and just have it be just a very short period of time,
Yeah.
definitive. We're only gonna do one because
Yeah.
it's like one, and then we see another one, and then we see
And they
another one,
roll, and the
and they
TV makes
roll
it where
in,
they
and the
just keep
TV just
going.
keeps going. And so, if we're gonna do if they're going to have some, even, it must be a very just either discrete amount of time or a discrete, episode or anything like that. And that is it.
Yeah.
2 to 5 years of age, about an hour max of
Yeah.
high quality content. And that is if you choose to, because it's
Yeah.
okay to not offer a screen. It is okay
That's
to
right.
do that, even though that is not, it is not the norm now. It is totally
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And then 6 and up, I would still say that trying to keep it 2 hours is ideal. But it also depends on things that they may be needing to do over the summer, like any
Yeah.
iReadies or any preps and things like that. But you do want to be able to make sure that the screen time does not replace sleep and eating
Yeah.
and any activity whatsoever, and play, and also chores. Summertime is
Yeah.
not a bad time to be like, we need to have a checklist of the things that you need to get done first that must be
Yep.
done before there's any screen time
That's
whatsoever.
right. That's right.
Um, and then the other piece of advice that I give families is you basically have, establish a screen to activity ratio. In other words, 10 minutes of screen time, minimum 20 minutes of activity. Or so you decide the ratio, 1 to 3, 1 to 2, 1 to 5, doesn't matter, it's up to you.
Yeah.
But you can say, it could be looked at one way, like the activity, then the screen is a reward. Hopefully at some point, it kind of feels like the other way, where they're just like, I would rather have, more activity, but at least having
Yeah.
a ratio so that you can control.
That's good. That's good. All right, let's talk about controlling, because it can be easy, like you said, to say, all right, one bluey, and then blah, 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 conflict, like how can parents, speak to parents here, effectively establish these boundaries without, constant conflict? How to deal with
Yeah,
that conflict?
I
Because
guess the
it happens.
first thing is there will be conflict.
Yep.
And that is just something that we have to be comfortable with. If we as parents wholeheartedly believe that screen time for our children is not good for them, and as we move into the teens years, the tween and teen years, in terms of social media, the effects are devastating.
Yeah.
So I can't stress this enough, that
Mhm.
you might as well fight with your 3-year-old over Bluey than fighting
Yeah.
over screen time and Snapchat and all of these things when
Yeah.
your children are teens. So I would say deal with it, because in the end,
Yeah.
most children will just be like, fine, we're not getting anywhere. This is what it's going to
Yeah.
be, but do
That's right.
expect that this is a departure for what
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
guys have done.
Right.
And
Expect resistance. Yeah.
yeah, expect resistance. And I mean, it's okay for kids to be bored.
Yeah.
Be ready for a house that's messy, because if we're gonna be playing, the house will be messy. There will be blocks, and there will be puzzles, and there will be
Yep.
paper. And I never kept, well, that's not true, I did keep glitter in the house, but we used
Oh,
it very
you're
judiciously.
a
But
different level of good mom if you've got glitter in the
I
house.
tried very
I love
hard.
it.
But the Dollar Tree is full of things where you can just
Tons.
grab and just, let's put popsicles just. But yes, it is messy.
Yeah.
Yes, you have
Yeah.
to supervise. And that, I
Yeah.
think, the thing is what's
The hardest.
difficult
Yeah.
for parents in that balance, right? If
Yeah.
they're on a screen, there's minimal supervision
That's right.
versus when we're doing an activity. So
Yeah.
that's why the routine is important. And the
Yeah.
routine is going to be important for you, moms and
Yeah.
dads, in terms of your day. So
Yeah.
if you know that you're going to be busy with meetings, and it just is what it is. It is
Yeah.
okay. But if you can carve out an hour or 45 minutes or half an hour where your attention is with the kiddos,
Yeah.
or then that is that time that you are
Yeah.
going to, to be present and help them explore
Mhm.
and kind of facilitate their boredom,
That's
because
right.
that's when
That's
they're
right.
creative. That's when they
That's
start
right.
thinking, that's when they start to doing bentos, like I say. But that's
That's right.
important. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's
That's right.
important.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
think we lose
then
sight of that.
I was thinking the other thing too that makes this if you're able, is recruit other families in your
Yes.
neighborhood, on your street,
Yeah.
or friends from school. Maybe you guys aren't super close. But we often did this in summers where I generally have, free time on a certain day, and I would be like, okay, I was thinking of taking the kids to whatever. I was going to take the kids to the beach, or we're going to take them to Frost, and who wants in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can take 6 kiddos.
Yeah.
So then the other mom was like, okay, well, like next week I can, so you can
That's great.
recruit moms to kind of like co-op play, co-op this,
Yeah.
activities, because it's often more fun for kiddos with peers.
That's right.
And it also can work to your benefit, where you might have an afternoon without the kids in the house, and then you reciprocate that with
Yeah.
other busy moms.
That's good. I think one of the traps we get in as moms is like, I'm the only person doing this. I'm so alone. It's so
Hmm.
hard. And even just, I mean, I think that's awesome to share, like do a swap, do a day swap,
Yeah.
morning swap, or I'll do the morning, you do the afternoon, whatever. We pair off. But even just asking for help, just saying, hey, like, do I want to come over and play? So
Yeah.
sometimes I find like 7 kids in my house is easier than 3 kids at my house because the
Hmm.
7 all play together. And then I'm like, oh, everyone's happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's getting creative. I love that. I'm so glad that you said that. What about, let's talk about what's a good screen time replacement that kids maybe won't complain about? Like, maybe they're like, instead of this, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas? Obviously,
Yeah. Again,
for activities, but
if we're thinking about indoors, it's messy. Build a fort with the pillows. Take them
yep,
all, build a fort.
yep, yep.
Um, Outdoors, messy play with mud and sand.
Mud,
Just add water,
chalk,
as you
all the things.
said.
Yeah, just add water.
Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, anything that would feel like fun.
Yeah, that's right. And I
And
think you learn your kids too,
yes,
like, oh
yeah,
yeah,
you know them better than anyone else. And, there's something to be said, I think, for kids seeing their parents have fun,
yeah,
and kids seeing their parents have fun with them.
that's right.
So just embrace that that they have a lot of time on their hands and you don't have much.
That's
And
right.
we hear this a lot, and it's so very true that the days are long but the years are short. And so
Yeah,
just try to be present. And I know that that's difficult, but I mean, anything that you think would be fun. Think
that's right.
about when you were a kid and what were the fun things that you did.
Yep.
And just go back to that.
Yeah, the old school like lemonade stand or like
Oh
picking
yeah,
up
they're like, oh yeah, a
stoves
garage
and
sale. Are you kidding me?
come
Like,
on, clean out the garage. That's great. That's
yeah, let's
fun.
clean it up. Let's put a table outside. We're gonna,
Good. Make
yeah,
yourself some money.
make yourself some money, or none.
But
It doesn't matter, but
yeah,
you're
or
not
not,
inside
just
the
get
house, right?
outside.
Right.
That's right. I don't care what you do, just get
Yeah.
outside. What about, are there apps or digital tools that actually are helpful that like
Yeah.
promote movement, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So
Keep
Pokemon Go is
useful.
a fun one for the kiddos. There's one
Say it again.
called
Oh, sorry.
Pokemon Go.
Okay, okay.
Go Noodle
Okay.
is another one. And then I think it's a video game, but I think they have an app, Just Dance, may
Okay.
have
Yeah.
some of that stuff. So again, those are the ones off the top of my head, but I imagine that there are so many of them that you can use.
Yeah.
For the older kiddos, you can do step trackers or fitness trackers that are
Mhm.
free. So ASICS has one, and that's the one that it's on my phone. That's the one that I can think of. Nike, I think, has one too. They have free
Okay.
versions where you can kind of log activities and things like that.
Okay. Cool. All right, let's talk about screens in public places because we can't control that.
Yeah.
And so how can we kind of navigate that without it's time to go,
Hmm.
no, 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 but
Yeah.
without a meltdown.
Yeah. Again, yeah, meltdowns are difficult. So I always counsel, don't set up your kids for failure in terms of, if it's a meal time or a snack time, that's probably not a good time to leave the house.
Yeah.
And if you've already left the house, then just know that things may go south.
Yeah.
And be prepared, if at all possible, with coloring books, or anything that you can kind of whip out that they haven't seen. So it's kind of like the little treasure box where maybe you can have some trinkets or things like that, where
Yeah.
some manipulative play, anything. Um, and you could just have it like ready to go. It could be the grab bag that you guys zoom out with, can be
Great.
helpful. And I think that also just recognize that sometimes you may give in, and that's okay.
Yeah.
and just be like, don't let them tantrum for 30 minutes and then give them the phone, because they will know that they can do it for
Like, oh,
35
I just have to
before.
do this.
I just have to do
Yeah.
that. So,
Oh, holding
I
your
think that's
ground
a
is
good
the hardest
strategy.
part. But
Yeah,
yeah,
holding your boundaries is the hardest part for
to hear
sure.
that from a doctor. Listen up. I'm telling
Yeah,
myself,
yeah,
remember, hold the
yeah.
line,
Hold
because
the
it
line.
does
It's
get
tough.
harder to hold the next time when you're like, okay, fine. And it's
Yeah,
like, okay, well,
absolutely.
next time they're gonna have to do more. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good. I love it too. Patty said that she packs a mini backpack that only contains toys and activities that they can use only at restaurants. So then it's like,
yeah,
it's exciting.
yeah. The fun. Yeah, that's a
That's
great
great.
idea.
I love that. I love that. All right, let's talk about building daily routines, which I think all goes back to parents and holding the line, because
Yep,
you can have a beautiful, I will say, case in point, you can have a beautiful routine. You can make a poster and hang it on the door. But if at
sure.
the end of the day you don't hold the line on it, it's just a poster on the door.
Yeah,
So talk to
absolutely.
us about how we can build a daily routine that includes like
Yeah.
activity and some downtime, you know?
Yeah. So I think that just kind of anchoring like the natural rhythm of your home, right?
Yeah.
So breakfast, I would encourage families to wake them up, have regular wake up times. The teens
That's
will
good.
not be happy,
Yeah.
but it's very easy to kind of mess up sleep hygiene and sleep in teens, and it's very difficult to bring it back. So starting to wake up at going to bed at a regular bedtime the week before school starts is not going to cut it. So try to
Yeah, that's
maintain
good.
reasonable bedtimes and wake up times. And morning, morning activity after breakfast. Whatever that may be. Mornings are a good time to do it because it should be a little bit cooler. During after lunch, that's going to be a quiet time. So we're going to do, 20 minutes screen free. Here's the puzzles. Here are the Legos. Here are this is the activity of your choosing. This is the thing that you wanted to do, but we're going to have some quiet time. Family walks after dinner, I think, are always a good choice. So just kind of have anchor points, just kind of, what you normally do. Maybe you can plan time to visit family, so we
Mhm.
sometimes don't have enough time during the weekday when the kids are in school because we have so many things going on that we're not really maybe spending time with an aunt or a grandparent
That's
or anyone in the family really that you feel like maybe you haven't really connected. So maybe that's, that speaks to you as well. And we're like, you know what? So this afternoon we're gonna pick, we're gonna visit someone, and it could be, someone that and then probably like even inquiring through the community centers or your churches, synagogue, temples, whatever. Like, they may have programs where they have folks that are homebound and may need visitors, and so that's another thing that you could
yeah.
potentially do with kids because again it's just establishing the importance of communication and community
That's right.
generationally, right, which
Right.
it's so beneficial for us, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's good. Good reminders too of just looking
Mhm.
for ways you can serve with your kids this
Yeah,
summer. I think we don't think
exactly.
about that like, oh, a beach cleanup or like you said,
Yeah,
a nursing
absolutely.
home
Yeah.
in the
You-
hottest part of the day and,
yeah, that's a great
you know,
idea. I mean,
black
my
pressure
gosh.
piano or whatever your kids do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Reading
good.
time,
Yeah.
just, there's so many things I think that you can do. You
Yeah.
just have to be intentional about it. And
Yeah.
just set it in the calendar. I mean, we have a family calendar and this is where we put all the events.
Love it.
So it can be like the summer calendar, like, on Wednesdays, we're going to do something intentional with others,
Yeah.
you know. What do you
Okay.
guys want to do? All right. And then we
Yeah,
fill
that's
that in,
right.
right?
I'll make a
Mhm.
summer bucket list that's with
Yeah.
everything,
Oh, that's a
like
great
something fun
idea.
like that. Then
Yeah,
it's like they have some autonomy in it and some buy-in.
absolutely. I
Like
like that
I gave
bucket
an
list.
idea,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat a little bit on this one. Okay, we've talked about a child resists outdoor play. They only want screens. Okay. So I know we can say hold your line, whatever, but like, would you do like a scenario with us? Like as a pediatrician, the parent who's been there, we know it doesn't ever go perfect. But
Yeah.
when you have a kid who's just like, no, I don't want to do it,
Yeah.
I don't know, kind of walk us through as a parent because it's hard.
Yeah.
You're there, you've been there.
Yeah, yeah. So, number one is start small.
Yeah,
It could literally be just 5 minutes. You will
yeah,
probably argue more than the
yeah.
5 minutes.
That's true.
But a lot of times, once they're out, and
Yep.
you're engaging with them and they're
Yep.
like, this is fun. And I'm with my mom. This is
Okay.
great. Or my dad, or my aunt, or
Yeah.
my big sister, whatever. You may be surprised at how reasonable they
Yeah.
might become.
That's right.
So starting small.
Yeah.
The other
Good.
thing that I think is important for kids is give a choice.
Yeah.
So you can be like, okay, well, remember that shiny scooter that we have out there? So what would you like to do? Would you like to, would you like to just play catch or would you like
Yeah.
to ride your scooter?
Yeah.
You have to pick, but we can do
Yeah.
either of those, right?
Yeah.
And so giving a choice, I think between two things is helpful for the smaller kids, giving a choice for the older kids, and just being like, we're gonna do this. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you can't drag your big teen out the door,
Yeah.
and that's challenging. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, but
Yeah.
I think giving a choice is helpful.
That's good.
Kind of creating a bucket list, like you said, just kind of the
Yeah.
things that we do. Positive reinforcement really helps. Um, and then the statement like, well, when you do this or when we do this, then
Yeah.
we can do that. And so that's a
Yeah.
statement that
That's
you
good.
can use for basically any
Anything.
scenario, right?
Good.
So they don't want to put on their shoes and you're like, okay, well, when you put on your shoes, then
Then.
we can, you know, go for a walk or do
Yeah.
this or do that or the other or the thing that they want to do, right? Because a
That's
lot
right.
of,
Get them to the end goal. Yeah.
get them to the end goal.
That's good.
Um, you know,
Thank you
so
for that. And thank you for the reminder too of just because sometimes I personally can be like, we're not gonna do TV. And I'm like, go outside. But like then they struggle. I'm like, just go outside, go outside.
right.
But here I
Yeah,
am trying to stay in here on my computer or my whatever I'm trying to do.
right.
When sometimes all it takes, like you said, is just going out there with them, starting the
Yeah,
activity, getting them going. I read something that said for some children, it can take on average 45 minutes, which sounds like a lot, to establish like their play structure,
yep.
before they get going and really go on their own. And I think about when we were
Yeah.
kids, we'd go outside, we'd play in the creek, whatever, and we'd be gone for hours. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I forget that that takes some time and that it's
Yep.
okay
And they
and it's
don't do
actually
that.
helpful. Yeah,
They
to go
don't
out
do
there
that.
and get them going.
Yeah. I was just thinking,
Good.
it'd be fun. I bet you could like search this on Google. I'm sure there's a PDF, a million of them created
Yeah.
already. Outdoor bingo.
Love it. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Or just like the punch card.
Pre-printable. It's
Yes,
always
exactly.
my
I'm sure
search
it's
thing.
there. Someone Google it right now.
Nature
Print it
scavenger
out,
hunt.
and you're like, here you
Pre-printable.
go.
Yeah.
Here's a marker.
Yep. Yep.
Go. Because at
That's
least
right.
there's an activity,
That's right.
right? So, and then
Right.
that will get them started.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. Oh, leaf rubbings. I will tell you, I got my kids started one time on like
What a
paper and a
great idea.
crayon and rubbing the leaf. And then I'm like, how many different leaves can you find? And it's
See?
like, they're up for the challenge.
I know.
But so it's just getting them started. So I thank you for saying that because it's easy to sometimes just think, I should be able to say go outside and that should be enough. But like, no, sometimes the joy is that they're getting to be with mommy, like you said.
Yeah.
We forget that.
And they don't, I mean, if you think about your kids, right?
Yeah,
Even if they're little and in
yeah,
preschool, think about their play. And
yeah.
they don't have unstructured playtime. They are not used to it. They are not
That's
accustomed to
right.
it. There is not unstructured play.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
good for
once they're
them.
younger in
Mhm.
recess, but a lot of things end
Yeah,
up being very structured. Reading
yeah,
time is still circle time.
yeah.
Recess is probably the only time that they can run amok. Everything
That's
else,
right.
and then when you get into the kids, if they've already been so used to not being bored and not having unstructured play, they don't, it seems crazy, but
Yeah,
they don't know what to do. And
that's right.
so you do have to just understand that it quite frankly might be very counterintuitive for these kids.
That's right.
It may be silly to say, but
No,
some
but
of
you're
them
right.
probably don't know how to play,
Yeah, that
you
is
know?
right. Wow. We can have a whole episode
We're
about
gonna
that.
have a whole
Tuck
episode
that
on that.
away.
I am not the expert. I'm sure
I
someone
know,
is,
but I
but
love it. You're
yeah,
giving us these great ideas. All
yeah.
right, here's a question from the audience, and this is a good one. How do you control screen time and make it less like a reward? That so they don't feel that they're earning screen time through their good behavior.
Right.
I'll just be good, and then I'll get screen time, and then if I don't want screen time, I'll act however I want.
Yeah.
So how do we teach them without, you know?
So the first is right is so it can be difficult to kind of detach but that's really what you want. And so the expectation is that we're going to spend less time on the screen with the idea that the during the detox it's painful,
Yeah,
but as they become more accustomed to it, it's something that they may actually crave. And that is because they're spending time with you. And there may be a point where they're like, okay, you go, I'm just gonna do my thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is difficult to do. And sometimes that's just kind of the way that you start. I mean, we are all, in terms of behavior, in individuals, we often do things for a reward. That's just
Yeah.
kind of sometimes how we do it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so I agree it's difficult, but sometimes even that way can be, or you can just, really limit it to certain situations. So not tied to anything, but, you
Yeah.
know, 15 minutes after our quiet afternoon time, we'll do 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it's one bluey per day. You can decide, when we're going to do bluey, as long as it's not during dinner time or anything like that.
Yeah. That's great.
So you can definitely unlink it
Yep.
by providing the structure around it.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And it's so good to start young, right? Because it's
Mhm.
getting us in the habit, more so even than our kids. It's getting us in the habit, like you said, when the stakes get higher,
Yep.
they're in middle school and high school with these screens. Okay, I'm watching our time and we're almost up. So if you have a question for our expert, drop it in our Q&A feature. But let's talk about, are there any health risks associated with too much screen time? Like even if a child is active otherwise, but they're still getting
Yeah,
too much screen time.
yeah, definitely. So more and more we're seeing links to anxiety and mood disorders in teenagers in terms of screen, especially a lot of their screen time is on social media. Sleep disruption is a big one.
Yeah.
So when we're on our screens, it is our brain is becoming more alert. And especially if it's towards the end of the evening, which is
Yeah.
oftentimes when screen time happens,
Like, yep. Yep.
then our brains are not, and our kids' brains are not receiving the signal that it's time to go to sleep. And the sleepy hormone melatonin is nowhere in sight. And so
Wow.
sleep disruptions, mood behaviors, behavioral issues and changes, it can be difficult to regulate what they're watching unless
Yeah.
you have strict parental controls.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we don't know what, a
Yeah.
short video in YouTube is going to pop up and they may be learning things or saying things that are inappropriate.
That's right.
And then attention difficulties. And then again, the big thing, I mean, I just think of me, right? Like the
Yeah.
dopamine hit. It is that,
Yeah.
that like, ooh, and another one and another short and another, and you're just kind of, you scroll mindlessly. Well, for kids, it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
And so that's very detrimental because the instant gratification, there's no delayed satisfaction, and that's really, really important in terms of kids' development of executive function.
Yeah. Wow. Which has really long implication. I feel like we
Yeah.
could like camp here. We don't want to camp on the bad news today.
Yeah, yeah, no,
That's
but I
not the
think
episode. But
yeah,
there's a
but I think
lot
it's important
there.
to know what's at
Yeah.
risk. I think,
Yeah.
when we had, computers in our pocket, we thought this was the most amazing thing, and it can
Mhm.
be. And I just don't think as oftentimes in society where sometimes technology evolves before we can even get a handle of what can come from it.
Right. Right.
And I
We're so
think
excited about the latest.
screens is one of those things.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Wow, and I think something you said that I want to camp here for just a second. The sleep disruption. It's easy to think as an adult, like, oh, it's just an inconvenience to have a sleep disruption. Like, no, for a child, like, talk about the implication. Like, that's very
Yeah.
important. That's like
Yeah,
time
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
right,
they
right?
need to sleep. That's when we all rest and repair. And in children, that's when growth hormone is secreted. So they
Yeah.
need regular sleep and they need more sleep than they get.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Oh,
Mhm.
Dr. Torres, I feel like we can make this a 3-hour episode. We're not. We're not going to do it. So I want to just kind of tie a bow on it with this last question, but maybe two last questions. But one would be any quick daily habits that moms can adopt to raise more active kids?
Daily habits that well, it starts with us. And so I think that the first thing that we can do is just um it's I know that it's hard to do. I'm saying it, and I know there are a lot of moms who are like, my kids are little and I just cannot
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And I feel you because I also felt that same way. And all these things that we were talking about were very, very difficult for me when my kids were younger.
Yeah.
Um, but um, but it's so important for children to see us modeling positive behaviors. And so again, I'll just go back to start small.
Yeah.
small and build over time. So if they see you taking, you know, first thing in the morning, even if they're up and they're crawling out of bed and you're in a corner, just kind of sitting and doing some stretches or just some
Yeah.
meditation, or you're in your corner,
Yeah.
you know, what I do in the mornings, it's really early. I wake up way before them.
I love it.
It is what I've done, but I have quiet time with my
Yeah.
Bible and I just sit there,
Yeah.
and even if they wake up,
Yeah.
they have come to learn that
That
they'll
that's
just sit
mommy.
next
Yeah.
to me,
I'm
and that is my time. And I'm not
that's
exercising or doing any activity, but if it's a
yeah.
stretch or a yoga whatever
Yeah.
it may be, when they see that and
Yeah.
you establish the boundary,
Yep.
then they will recognize that mom is also doing something that's important for her.
That's right.
And you just kind of model that behavior.
That's right. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Tiny, small, small, small,
You are so
scalable,
good
make
at
it
this.
work.
This is
Make
why I
it
wanted
work
to
for
ask you this
you.
last question because you always do that. You always end with something like that and it's always so encouraging. And I want to just take it one little layer deeper because you are a mama and like you said, you're down the road. You've got some older children. Maybe there's some parents of younger kids listening. I'm a mom of younger kids. So speak to the mom who maybe today already feels like she's blown it. My kids have already watched 2 hours of TV and it's only 1 o'clock, you know?
Yeah.
But speak to that mom and tell
Yeah.
her
Yeah,
that
it
that's
doesn't
great.
have to be
It's
4
okay.
hours.
Yes, yes. That's right.
I I will tell
That's
you
right.
that I made the confession beforehand that I was
Yeah,
like, "This summer's looking glim. I'm
yeah,
gonna have to take everything that I'm saying, and I
and
am
put it
going
to
to have
practice.
to put it to practice."
Yeah,
I
yeah,
totally get that it's easier said than done.
that's right.
Um, but in terms of behavior change, which is,
Yeah,
you know, in terms of, you know, at you know, psychological, you know, the level of
yep,
psychology and behavior change, small steps add up over time.
that's right.
And it has to be sustainable.
Yep,
And so you have to decide that. Um, but you know, I just think that, it again, it doesn't have to be big. It can be small. And just because you don't have to keep on blowing it, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's
To,
right.
like, you know, 2 hours, okay. It's better
That's
than
right.
6. It's better than all day. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
don't never wait for a Monday. That is a, you know, I worked with someone in
that's good.
fitness who was like, don't wait for the Monday. Don't wait for the new year. You could be
Just
waiting for months
today.
before to start a new habit. And that's just
That's
not the
good.
way it works. So
Oh,
just,
that's good.
you know,
That's good. And call in reinforcements if you need the help. Another mom,
yeah,
there's been times
yes.
I have sent the remote control to the TV with my husband to work because I said, I just know that this is going to be good for me today if you take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But you know yourself, but also be
yeah.
encouraged that like we're not going to bat 1,000, we're not going to parent perfectly. So I
Yeah,
just
totally.
appreciate
Yeah,
your
reach
honesty and
out. I think we're very
encouragement.
used to living,
Isolated.
we're together, but we're
Yeah.
isolated, and I
Yeah.
think it's, you know, just reach out to the neighbor,
Yeah.
you know, anyone that you can think of on I know that everyone has a mom chat. Hey,
Yep.
what are you
Utilize
guys
those moms.
doing?
That's
Yeah,
right. That's
utilize the
right.
mamas. Everyone is in the same boat.
It is
No one is killing
so
it. Everyone
true.
is,
We're
it
all
may,
hanging by a thread of
we're
some
all
sort.
hanging by a thread. Yep, I agree.
Different threads maybe, but all a thread.
Yes, yep.
I always say motherhood is hard. Like, let's not mask that it's hard. It's hard. It is
No.
hard. We know it, but it doesn't have to be lonely. We can reach out. We can
Yeah, for
find help.
sure.
We can have a buddy in it. So
Yeah.
thank you, Dr.
You're
Torres. You have been
welcome.
a help to us today.
I'm
So
glad.
grateful. Thank you. You've given us encouragement. You've given us great strategies and tips and tricks. We're going to have some resources here for you on the screen. If you would like to screenshot this to do a little more exploration on your own, we've got that Every Kid Outdoors, which is amazing. If you have a fourth grade kid, explore those national parks. Again, lots of resources online, parents.com. I will say MiamiMomCollective.com. We've also got some great resources for you for the summer that you can continue your study of this topic. And Dr. Torres, just thank you again for spending your time with us
It is
today.
my
We
pleasure.
appreciate you so much. So